When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad. Da 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 ba 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 ba. I don't know. I generally don't like Christmas music. This is kind of random to start the podcast. Hello, everybody. It's December. It's Christmas month. It's Hanukkah month. It's Kwanzaa month. I don't know what else it is. But the last month of the year, we're on our way to 2023, 4.5 weeks away. I generally don't like Christmas music. My problem with Christmas music is they start playing it on some of the, everywhere you go, it's playing for like 6 weeks. It used to be like a week before Christmas, then 2. Now we're playing in the middle of November, and it's the same songs over and over again. I know some people love it. It's not, and it has nothing to do with, obviously I don't celebrate Christmas, if you know me, because I'm not Christian, but it's just some of the songs I like, but some of them over and over. It's like, all right, who can listen to that all day? I don't want to listen to anything over and over all day, except for maybe Billy Joel. On today's podcast, we look ahead to the Browns' battle with the Texans this weekend as Deshaun Watson makes his 2022 NFL debut. He has not played in a regular season game since the first week of 2021. It's been 23 months since Deshaun Watson played. We spent all yesterday's show on Deshaun Watson. We'll get into the bigger picture of the team, the game, their chances of making a run here. We'll save the Cavaliers. I'm doing 2 podcasts today. This is my Thursday morning podcast. I'm going to do another one that I'm going to put out late this afternoon. An interview I'm going to do with Chris Fedor. So I'm going to save all my Cav stuff for then. And we'll do a little baseball. I'm going to throw in some Guardians rumors and stuff like that. But a lot of football here on today's show. Plus, I'll pick the Thursday night game as well. That's all coming up on a Thursday, December 1st, 2022 edition of The Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
everybody does fandom their way.
You've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for The Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Bow, bada, bow, bow, bow. Had a great breakfast this morning, gotta tell you. I don't know if anybody cares, but I took my son. We had I get him private instruction on for hitting. Been working with a hitting coach because sometimes like I was his coach for Little League, and you hear your dad, and I was like, all right, let me step it up a notch. So he's been working with a hitting coach down at T3 in Avon. Great place, by the way. Highly recommend. Coach Bob, shout out to him. He's did a great job with my son, working on a swing. And so we went there really early. We had a 7 a.m. lesson. And I was like, I think we have time to go for breakfast before school. So we went to First Watch, which I'm not a big chain guy, but First Watch does nice stuff. And man, I got the French toast at First Watch in Rocky River this morning, and it was on point, delicious. So a good way to start the day with a delicious breakfast. All right, Browns now. Let's see, what is the point spread up to the minute? It remains at 7. Browns were a 7-point favorite in Houston. Browns, according to ESPN's Power Index or whatever the hell they call it there, I can't even think of what it's called, have an 80% chance of winning this game. Browns have not played well on the road. Remember, they won in Carolina first week of the season, and since then, they have lost 4 straight on the road. The Browns have 4 of their last 6 games on the road because this is the year the AFC teams play 9 road games. It's going to be a crazy atmosphere. We know what it's going to, I guess we don't know what it's going to be like. You'd think it'll be a packed house. The fans will be screaming. There'll probably be some awful things said. It's going to be ugly. And, how Deshaun Watson handles it. But what about the rest of the team? We talked a lot about Deshaun Watson on yesterday's podcast. But how does the rest of the team handle this, right? They haven't gotten this response in their other games because Deshaun Watson wasn't playing. Obviously, Nick Chubb yesterday said that the team was excited to have him back. And why wouldn't they be? He's a good player. At this point, listen, the off the field stuff's been talked about. I spent almost 20 more minutes talking about it yesterday. At this point, I'm analyzing Deshaun Watson, the football player. If there's another incident involving Deshaun Watson off the field, certainly it will come up again. I made my point clear about Deshaun Watson yesterday, and so I'm going to leave it at that. But on the field, yes, of course the players are going to be excited because he's a really good player and you want to win. I mean, that's it. The Browns have to win out to make the playoffs. The odds of that happening are very slim. Any team winning 6 games in a row is unlikely. A team that's 4-7 winning 6 in a row is even more unlikely. Now, most 4-7 teams don't get a quarterback like this to upgrade. The Browns will be better. They don't have the hardest schedule on the face of the earth. But as I said, 4 of their final 6 games are on the road. One of those in Cincinnati, which is a good team. The Browns have obviously played well against them the last couple of years. Does that guarantee success every time? No, of course it doesn't work that way. The Browns have to play in Washington, a Commanders team that on New Year's Day that is playing better football. I don't think they're a very good team, but they're playing pretty well. And obviously the Steelers is never going to be a cakewalk against the Steelers, even though I also don't think they're a very good team. And the Texans game is one thing, and then you got the Ravens and Saints at home. So 2 road games, 2 home games, then 2 road games again to end the season. As for this game specifically, I mean, the Texans are head and shoulders, to me, the worst team in the NFL. And the Browns should win this game. You never know. It's in the NFL, again, as I said yesterday, this is not, I said on the TV show, this is not Ohio State playing Rutgers, where it's like, it's an absolute miracle. Rutgers probably had like a 5% chance of beating Ohio State, if that high. I mean, even 20% chance for Houston's pretty low. The Browns should win the game, but you just never know in the NFL. I do, it's funny with Deshaun Watson back. It seems like the Browns are going to throw the ball a lot more. I think some people have complained that they haven't run it even more than they have, which to me is silly. But I expect the Browns to actually be pretty run heavy in this game. Houston's run defense is terrible. I think they're going to want to ease Deshaun Watson back in. Doesn't mean he's not going to throw. He's certainly going to throw plenty. But I think I think Nick Chubb's going to have a big game. I think he's going to go for 150 yards in this game. I think he's just going to have a monster game. So I think I do think they'll be run heavy, even with the return of Deshaun Watson. The defense, which, played, one of its best games of the year. The defense has played, I'd say, 2 excellent games against Cincinnati and against Tampa Bay. They should be in for a good day again against Houston. We'll see if Joe Woods changes things up in terms of aggressiveness, knowing that he's got Deshaun Watson to be able to overcome some potential mistakes. Houston's they're just a really bad team all around. I mean, there's no reasonable argument for the Texans winning this game. They're just a very bad football team. They're averaging 16 points a game. That's horrible. They're giving up 24 points a game. Now the Browns are giving up 26 points a game. They do have a nice rookie running back in Dameon Pierce, but they've been behind. He hasn't been all that effective of late. They don't have a good quarterback. They just don't have much. I mean, in terms of breaking it down talent-wise, there's not much. I mean, what can you say? They're a terrible, terrible team. The Browns are a team that is not terrible. They haven't, through 11 games, played, they've played below average football, but they're not. This is a different level of bad than what the Houston Texans are. They're 1-9-1 for a reason. And in the last, earlier in the season, they were a little more competitive in their games. But if you look at the last, few games, they have not really been competitive. They beat Jacksonville a couple months ago, but since then they lost by 18, then a touchdown, then 12, then 8, then 13, then 15. And some of these games weren't even as close as the scores. They made the score reasonable. Dolphins were up 30-0 on them last week. I mean, it feels like they have completely cratered. And I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't win another game. I know they beat Jacksonville earlier. They tied with Tennessee. They're in a bad division. But Outside with Indianapolis, not Tennessee. But they're playing the Browns. They got Dallas and Kansas City the next couple of weeks. So, again, there's just no reason that the Browns should lose this game. This game shouldn't be close. The Browns should blow them out. They got to take care of business. They got to be aggressive defensively, take some shots with Deshaun Watson, and run it down their throat with Nick Chubb. The Browns should be able to do whatever they want to do in this game. I expect that to happen. I'm not sweating it out at all. I think the Browns are going to win back-to-back games for the first time this year, and then things get exciting. Then at 5-7, with 2 division games back-to-back at Cincinnati, Baltimore at home, Cincinnati team that you've beaten, you're 4-0 against with Joe Burrow, and more impressively, 2-0 in the last 2 years when Joe Burrow's been surrounded by a good team. And then a Baltimore team that you lost to, but it was a very competitive game that the Browns had an excellent chance to win. So that's going to be it. Are the Browns worth talking about in terms of legitimacy? We're going to find out after this Houston game, just as long as they don't have some crazy slip up and lose this game. All right, quick break. We'll talk some Thursday night football, some baseball trade rumors, and more coming up. But I want to talk to you about betonline.net. It's your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. They've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at betonline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. Here we go. So let's take a look at the Thursday night football game today. It's the Bills and the Patriots. And the Bills, it's interesting. The Bills are not playing great football. I heard the great Greg Cosell, who breaks down film. He is like the guru of film breakdown. He works for NFL Films, of course, but he does a lot of media, and he's just awesome. He's awesome. And Greg was talking about how he thinks, you look at everybody's so enamored with Josh Allen that they've kind of forgotten that the Bills offense around him is not as good as people make it out to be. And it's really true. They don't have a particularly good running back. They've got a bunch of mediocre guys. Their offensive line's not great. Stephon Diggs is a fantastic player, but the rest of their receivers are average. Their tight end is average at best. Their running backs are average at best. It is true. You know, Josh Allen's so good that it's like, oh, wait a second. Outside of Stephon Diggs, now Stephon Diggs is huge. He's great, one of the best receivers in football. But there's nobody else better than average on that offense. And the offensive line's not better than average either. It's a good point. I hadn't really, you just think Josh Allen's so good. But the interesting thing, like, the Bills have not played great football of late. They weren't spectacular against the Browns. They barely beat the Lions on Thanksgiving. 2 weeks before that, they lost to the Jets and Vikings. Now, what's interesting is they're 0-2 in the division. They lost to the Dolphins earlier in the season, and they lost to the Jets. They have not played the Patriots yet. 4 of their final 6 games are against their division, including 2 against the Patriots. They're at New England tonight, Thursday Night Football, and then they close the season at home against the Patriots. So they have quite an interesting. I mean, they're playing all good teams the rest of the way except for the Bears. Got 2 games with a decent Patriot team, 1 game with a decent Jet team, 1 game with a good Dolphins team, and 1 game with a good Bengals team. The Bears are the only bad team on their schedule, and if Justin Fields is playing, and if he's back by then, which is likely in 3 weeks, and the game's on the road, so that I don't think it'll be the Fields was obviously starting to really play a lot better. But anyway, in terms of tonight's game, I kind of like the Patriot. I mean, if you know me, you know I'm not a big Patriot guy. I'm not. I don't like Mac Jones. I don't think he's a good. I don't think he's going to be a good quarterback. But I just don't love the way Buffalo's playing. Traveling on the Thursday night game is always tricky. They've had a really rough few weeks. They had to go to Detroit to play the Browns, and then back to Detroit for Thanksgiving, and then at least it's not a short week for them. I think it's going to be a close game. I like the Patriots with the points. It wouldn't surprise me if the Bills pulled out a close game, but I'll take at 3.5. I'm going to take the Patriots in this game to keep it close. I think the Bills win a weird game, like surprisingly low scoring. 20-17 or 21-20 or 17-16, something like that. I expect it to be within a field goal. I got the Bills slightly winning, but I'm going to take the Patriots. It wouldn't surprise me if they pulled this upset at home. Again, I'm torn because I don't trust Mac Jones a lot, but I think they're going to run the ball. I think they'll have a good game plan for this matchup, and I think Belichick sees some of the things Buffalo's struggling with lately, and obviously he's the best coach for a reason. So I'm going to take the Patriots to at least cover, and we'll see what happens from there. All right, a quick break, and then I want to get into some baseball stuff to wrap things up. That's coming up next, right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. Okay, so last night, you may not have seen this, but there was a report from John Morosi of Fox Sports and MLB Network. And he tweeted last night, sources, Guardians among the most active suitors for Athletics catcher Sean Murphy, the 2021 Gold Glove winner who could be dealt by the end of the winter meetings. The winter meetings start next week. And it's the first winter meetings in person, I think, since 2019. Right? Since 2019. The people in the industry are expecting the winter meetings to be very active. Now, if you're a Guardians fan and you're frustrated right now, I get it. They were supposedly in the mix for Jose Abreu, and they fell short. And we've seen a lot of this reportedly falling short from the Guardians. The Guardians need to upgrade. Obviously, they need a starting catcher. They're aware of this. Sean Murphy is a really good player. Now, to get Sean Murphy, you're going to have to give up a lot. A plus catcher, first of all, Sean Murphy has got, I believe, 3 years left of team control. I'm going to double check that, but I think he has 3 years left of team control. And the guy's been a tremendous player. Yeah, 3 years left. He's a free agent, 26. So you look at him. He is a good, for a catcher, he's a very good hitter. For an overall hitter, he's a above average hitter. But for a catcher, he's a really good hitter. He has power. Since he's become a full-time player the last 2 years, 17 homers in 2021, playing in 119 games. And then this past season, he played 148 games for a catcher. That's crazy. He had 18 home runs. He's not going to hit for a high average most likely, but he's a significantly better hitter than Austin Hedges, who's, an all-time bad hitter. And there's no drop-off defensively. In fact, he might be even better. Now, he's got to learn the pitchers and get, comfortable with that. But Sean Murphy would be an excellent addition. He doesn't, that's the only thing about Hedges is like, well, he's, good defensively. Well, Hedges couldn't throw anybody out. And Sean Murphy can, and he's better, and he's just a much better player. And Hedges is a free agent anyway, but you'd have team control for a few years. He's from Ohio, by the way. He's went to Centerville High School. And he went to college in Ohio too, I think, right? Wright State. Yeah, in Dayton. So anyway, but not that should matter. But he's 28 years old, just turned 28. So he'll be 28 for next season. You'd have him for his ages 28, 29, and 30 season. So that's perfect. It makes a lot of sense. Again, you got to give up good prospects to get him, a catcher under control who's a Gold Glover. I mean, the guy finished 20th for the MVP, 22nd for the MVP. He got MVP votes. You don't see a ton of catchers getting MVP votes. But, yeah, he got one 10th place vote, I believe. So I do like the idea of them going after him. They need to be aggressive. They need to get better. I mean, they need a big upgraded catcher. I think they need 2 big bats. I still think that being aggressive for some power at first base / DH makes some sense too. Now, another guy that's been rumored to be connected to the Guardians after they've, we talked about Anthony Rizzo. That went off the table quickly. We talked about Abreu. That went off the table this week. The next best option in terms of free agency, now the Guardians obviously can make a trade, but the next best option in terms of free agency would be Josh Bell. Josh Bell is a guy who was a big-time prospect at one point. He was a second-round pick out of high school. And he's been a good major league player. He's not, elite by any means. But he has a career OPS of 810 and a career slugging percentage of 456. I mean, these are quality numbers. In terms of the home runs, last year he hit 17 homers, so it was a little down from the previous couple of seasons. But he's had, good power. He had 26 homers in 2017. Then he dipped to 12 in 18. In 19, he was an all-star, 37 homers. Then the lockout, the COVID season. And then in 21, he had 27 homers. Last year, he was playing really well for Washington and got traded to San Diego and was a bit of a disaster. Last year was he was having a really good season. I don't know. Listen, the guy's he's not a star, but he's an upgrade over what they have. He can hit some home runs. He'll be, again, I know he only hit 17 last year, which was a disappointment. I would expect him to hit 20-something home runs. He's mostly been that kind of player. He's still only he turned 30 over the summer. So I like the idea of maybe I don't think anybody's given Josh Bell a big contract. I like the idea of maybe a 2 or 3 year deal with Josh Bell at reasonable money. I think that makes some sense. He's not very good defensively. That's kind of a negative there. So that does concern me a little bit because you could use an upgrade defensively. So I don't know if they maybe think of him more as a DH, but Josh Naylor is not a good defensive player either. So, but he would be a good addition or a guy like that. Maybe they'll go the trade market. We shall see. All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. Well, part 1 of today's podcast, my Thursday AM podcast. Coming up this afternoon, I'll put out a second podcast today. We'll talk all Cavs and NBA with my buddy Chris Fedor from Cleveland.com. That should be out probably, I'd say, between 4:30 and 5:30 late this afternoon, early this evening. So I'll put that out then. So 2 podcasts today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me. Make sure you subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on YouTube. The goal is to get to 20,000 members. Subscriptions by the end of the year. And we need your help to get there. So tell your friends, tell your parents, tell everybody. Click the bell. This way you'll get alerts every time I put out a podcast, every time we put out a new show, every time we put out a bonus show, overtime, extra post-game shows. Couldn't think of that. Breaking news shows, whatever. So and consider becoming a member. For $4.99 a month, you can get bonus content that we will have for you. Almost every day we do a show. I think there's been only 1 or 2 days we haven't done bonus content, but we'll do it almost every day, if not every day, for $4.99 a month. You'll get, anywhere from an extra 40 minutes to an hour of content a week. And it's only going to cost you $4.99 a month. So there you go. Make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Browns podcast with G. Bush and Jeff Lloyd. Do that as well. Check out my website, adamthebull.com, Cameo at Adam the Bull, and my Twitter, of course, at Adam the Bull as well. I'll talk to you later today, later today on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and later today with an afternoon podcast with Chris Fedor. All coming up right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. See ya.